What's going on, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here to examine an issue of the X-Men. Today, I am examining X-Men issue 55. We've got two stories here. The first one continues the threat of the living Pharaoh who kidnapped Alex Summers, Scott's younger brother, who was introduced in the previous issue. This story is written by Roy Thomas, with penciling by Don Heck and Werner Roth, with inking by Vince Colletta and lettering by Jean Izzo. That's Artie Simek's daughter. And then the backup story continues the origins of the Angel, or as he's called here, the Avenging Angel. And this is written by Roy Thomas, with penciling by Werner Roth, and inking and lettering by Sam Granger. So we have the return of Roy Thomas. It doesn't feel like that long since he left the book, but Gary Friedrich was only on the book for like 2 issues, I think, and at least one of those issues, it might have been 3 issues, and 1 issue he co-wrote with Roy Thomas, and then I think 1 issue he co-wrote with Arnold Drake. And then Arnold Drake did the Magneto Mesmero storyline, which was 3, maybe 4 issues long, and then he wrote the previous issue, which started the storyline. So neither Gary Friedrich nor Arnold Drake was on the book for very long. I seemed to remember Arnold Drake being on the book longer, but it could just be that I was remembering the Mesmero storyline, which was the one that I remembered quite fondly. So here we have Roy Thomas back on the book, and I am going to try to remain optimistic. I was not a fan of his previous run. Mostly, it's that he had this storyline that could have been really cool, this menacing organization called Factor 3 that the X-Men have to fight, and they capture Professor X, and then they have to do it on their own without the Professor's help. All that sounds really cool. It's a worldwide storyline instead of just being localized in New York City. That could have been great. The problem is, the story itself was only 4 or 5 issues long, but then Roy Thomas stretched it out to be about 14 issues long with a lot of fluff in there. There's an issue where they needlessly fight Spider-Man. There's an issue where they needlessly fight Mole Man and Tyrannus. There's an issue where they needlessly fight Meccano. There's a whole lot of that in between the issues that are really important with the Factor 3 stuff. And I've talked about all of that before. You can go watch those videos. I did not care for Roy Thomas's run, and I still believe that him basically sabotaging that storyline is what led to the cancellation of the X-Men series for about 5 years. Because right on the edge of that Factor 3 storyline, you had the X-Men getting new costumes, then you had Professor X dying, and then you had the X-Men splitting up and then getting back together. You had a whole lot of the creative teams trying to find a new angle for the book to work. And I guess they felt like the book wasn't working, so that's why they were trying to find something new. Here lately, we've seen them introduce a few new characters, Lorna Dane and now Alex Summers, and I feel like that can all be traced back to Roy Thomas just didn't seem very interested in writing the X-Men, so he wrote very subpar stories with very subpar characters, and now here we are with Roy Thomas beginning his second run on the series. And I've said this before, I actually enjoyed, years ago, this is probably about 10 years ago, when I read through these issues the first time, I actually did enjoy the second run by Roy Thomas. I remember liking it a lot more. I vaguely recall there was a lengthy Savage Land storyline that I enjoyed, so knock on wood, hopefully this will be better than the Factor 3 stuff. And he did more than the Factor 3 stuff, but that took up like 2/3 of his run, I think. Anyway, let's talk about this issue. Cyclops is in a subterranean tunnel, and he meets up with the living Pharaoh, who wants to frame Cyclops for murder so that Cyclops will join him. That seems like a really dumb idea, and Cyclops even says, yeah, I'm not going to join someone who's trying to kill me. So the living Pharaoh ends up kidnapping Cyclops, and he's already kidnapped Cyclops' younger brother, Alex, and the X-Men are flying around in their very fancy-looking plane. This does not look like the plane that they had whenever they, back before the Factor 3 storyline, they had a more normal-looking plane. This looks kind of science fiction-y, but anyway, they are telepathically scanning for Cyclops, and briefly, Jean Grey says that she notes some thought patterns that are similar to Cyclops's, but they're evil. And I don't know what that's a reference to. Maybe the living Pharaoh, who was right there when Cyclops was knocked unconscious, and then she's not able to sense his thought patterns anymore, but I don't really know what that's in reference to, why his thought patterns are similar to Cyclops's. I really have no idea there. But anyway, the X-Men are able to chase the living Pharaoh, who has chartered an entire plane, him and his goons, and they are going back to Egypt, where they plan to kill Alex and Cyclops. And I don't know why they need to do that here, because the living pharaoh was about to kill Alex in the museum that's like within walking distance of the college that he graduated from. So I don't know why they now have to go to Egypt to kill Cyclops and Alex. I'm not really sure why they need to kill Cyclops other than he got in the way of them doing whatever it is that they're doing. And at the very end of the issue, just as the living pharaoh is about to do something with this scepter that he has that blasts energy, because at one point he leans out of the plane and blasts the X-Men's plane with energy. But just as he's about to do that, Havoc kind of instinctively, and I said this in the previous video, he's not calling himself Havoc yet, I'm just calling him that for clarity's sake. He instinctively blasts the Pharaoh's scepter thing with his own mutant abilities. And so the issue kind of ends on a big bum 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 moment. Cyclops says, "You're a mutant now, Alex," and at the beginning of the previous issue, when they were watching Alex graduate, Cyclops said to himself that Alex was a mutant, but he didn't know it yet. And then in this issue, there are 2 or 3 moments where Cyclops is saying to himself, I really hope that that Havoc doesn't become a mutant. I want him to just have a normal life, unlike me. And that's kind of cool that he wants his brother to have a better life than him, but then we already knew that he was a mutant because of the previous issue. And now this issue is trying to pretend like that's news for everyone, including Cyclops. And that's a little weird, but we do get to see Alex use his mutant abilities, some kind of energy that comes out of his hands. We will probably get a little bit more explanation on that in the next issue. But that is about it for the main story here. In the backup story, Warren, he still hasn't met the X-Men yet, but he is now going out fighting crime on his own as the Avenging Angel. And man, this costume looks so much better than the one he's wearing in the present day. And this costume is going to be very similar to one that he will be wearing pretty soon by the time Neil Adams starts drawing the book. Like I said, there's that Savage Land storyline that I remember, and I think he gets a new costume around that time with a halo on his chest, and that symbol is very similar to one that he has here as the Avenging Angel. And basically, he's doing a Batman patrolling the city type thing, stopping gangsters from smuggling in weapons and stuff like that. He has a gas gun with gas pellets. They're basically, he calls them ping pong balls with gas inside them. I don't know how that works if you shoot the gas gun and a ping pong ball breaks whenever it makes contact with something, because I've seen ping pong balls. They're made of plastic and you can bend them, you can kind of dent them pretty easily, but they're not going to break open necessarily. It would take a lot of force to break one of those open. So I don't know how the gas gun works here, but he's kind of a cool 1930s pulp adventure hero type character here, and he is wanting to make a name for himself as a crime fighter. He even graffitis a wall after he knocks a gang unconscious and spray paints it with an angel halo, and that makes sense if you know that the Avenging Angel was there. But as we find out here, one of the only gangsters to actually see him and speak with the Avenging Angel was partially deaf. And he claims that a man with wings fought him, and so the police are like, well, he's a pathological liar, so we don't really know what's going on here. So his attempt to kind of make a name for himself as a new superhero doesn't really work out for himself. I thought it was kind of amusing that the radio goes out of its way to mention that he's partially deaf, I guess so that Warren can know, oh, okay, that's why he didn't tell them that my name was the Avenging Angel. And then he goes back to his apartment that he is living in while, I guess, in between semesters, and I'm still not sure, is this the boarding school that his parents enrolled him at, in which case he would still be high school age, or is this college? Because if it's boarding school, I wouldn't think that his parents would expect him to go and find his own apartment in between semesters. That would be a little weird, but then again, maybe they're thinking, hey, this will keep him from climbing buildings if he has to pay rent with money that we give him. So anyway, he goes back to his apartment, and Cyclops and Iceman are there. If you'll recall, in the chronology of X-Men Origins, Cyclops was the first to join Professor X, then Iceman, then Angel. Even though we got the Beast's origin story first, before Angel's, it's Cyclops, Iceman, Angel, Beast. But for some reason, they presented the order as Cyclops, Iceman, Beast, Angel. So Beast is nowhere to be seen here, but Cyclops and Iceman, they are waiting for the Avenging Angel at his apartment, and he comes in and says, I'm a lone agent, and anyone who pushes against me, they're going to get it bad from the Avenging Angel, or something like that. So it's a fine issue. Like I said in my video in the previous issue, I like that Warren, out of all of them, is taking the fight into his own hands. He doesn't have to be asked to become a crime fighter by Professor X. He wants to do that. That's cool. I wish that we had more of that with some of these characters, but I guess it's realistic to assume that a teenager who finds out they have superpowers and is almost lynched by everyone in town, they're not immediately going to want to become a superhero. That might be something they're going to have to kind of be coerced into doing. So I like that Angel is a little different than all the other X-Men. Like I said, this is so far my favorite of the origin stories for the X-Men. But that's about it here. Don't have a whole lot left to say. We're getting close to the end of the Silver Age. End of the Silver Age is issue 66, and I forgot to mention this in my video yesterday, or my video on the previous issue. But we are now, if you're reading in the Marvel Essentials, those big 500-page black and white X-Men books, if you're reading in those, we are now in Essential Classic X-Men Volume 3. I don't have mine's up on my shelf, but it's got a cool cover of Havoc. I'll pop it up on the screen right now. But we are now at the beginning of the end, I guess you could say, of the Silver Age. So not a whole lot left in the actual X-Men series, but as I've said before, after we hit issue 66, which will be here before you know it, I will be covering some various appearances of the X-Men in between this series getting canceled and Giant Size X-Men issue 1. So that's it for now, so consider this issue examined.